Hello, welcome to another episode of Cooking Mama. My name is Jenna and I'm going to present you some of the ingredients that we are going to need in order to bake our cake. Well, first of all, we are going to need 2 bars of butter, and then we are going to need 2 cups of flour here. We are going to need 2 teaspoons of baking powder here. We are going to need 1.5 teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate, then 1 cup of vegetable oil, then 4 big eggs here, then 2 carrots, 2 big carrots that we have here, and then 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavor here, 1 cup of pineapple, and 1 cup of coconut. Then we are going to need 1 cheese cream. Here's cheese cream, and then 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavor. Then 1.5 spoon of glass sugar, and finally 1.5 cup of nuts. And that's all the ingredients that you need in order to make our cake. And now we are going to pass with the other teachers in order to know the procedure.
Okay, so remember, the first step to any cake baking is to prepare the pans. In this case, I've used any sort of greasing oil. This is in the spray form, and I also use wax paper. I already cut it 2 identical circles because we will be using 2 molds. So the first thing you want to do is spray the pans with grease, which I already done, and put the wax paper at the top of the pan. This will allow the batter to not stick to the pan, and when you need to take the cake from the pan, the cake will just slide off the pan. So again, remember to always grease and put any sort of physical or oily barrier to your pans. You can use more than 1, but you cannot use flour by its own. You need to always use a grease and any sort of physical barrier like flour, or in this case you can use wax paper. So like I said, you need to grease them and put any sort of physical barrier, either wax paper or flour, but you cannot put just a physical barrier by its own. So for example, like I already mentioned, in this recipe we will be using 2 molds that have been greased with the spray, grease spray, and wax paper at the bottom. But for example, I have another mold here who has greased, and then there has been flour put around the whole size of the pan. Generally speaking, bakers do prefer to use this type of preparing, because when you do take the cake out of the mold, the cake just slides off easier, and this doesn't leave a residue of flour around the cake. And in these type of molds or cake preparations, they do leave a residue of flour.
Remember that the purpose of this video is not just for you to watch it. It is necessary that you follow along with this recipe in order to complete the 4th activity of the 3rd stage of the course, in which we focus on cakes. Remember that it is necessary that you take evidences of your baking process, from cake pan preparation, to choosing the right type of cake, preparing the frosting, flavoring the cake, and finally decorating the cake. We recommend that you ask a friend or a family member for help with gathering the evidences so that you don't take your mind off the baking process. The evidences can be presented in any picture or video format and must be uploaded to the platform. The photos and videos should also show the final product, a slice of your final cake, and the reaction of at least 2 people tasting your cake for the first time. Once you have gathered all your ingredients, it's time to get baking. In a bowl, mix 2 cups of flour, next add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. Add 2.5 teaspoons of salt, one teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 2 cups of granulated sugar. Once you have added all the dry ingredients to the bowl, take a whisk and mix them together. Now we can proceed to the next stage where we will add the wet ingredients.
So once all the dry ingredients are all mixed together, we can now incorporate all the liquid ingredients. We do this in 2 separate sections, the dry ingredients with the dry ingredients and the liquid ingredients with the liquid ingredients, because once they all come together, you have more control over the mixture and the texture of the mixture, and they both combine better. Okay, now that we're done mixing the dry ingredients, now we can move to incorporate the liquid ingredients. In this case, we will incorporate half a cup of oil and 4 eggs. We do the separation of dry ingredients and then incorporation of the liquid ingredients because they will all mix together even better, and you have more control over the texture of your cake batter. So now we add the half cup and the 4 eggs. So a lot of you have asked me what better tools to mix cake batter with. At this stage, you can use a whisk to mix all together, but because of the nature of this recipe, which is carrot cake, it involves chunks of food, which are the pineapple and the carrot. So a whisk, mixing the batter with a whisk will just make a complete mess. So what I preferably use is a spatula because it allows you to incorporate batter which has big chunks of things in it. So now the next step is to add a cup of pineapple and 2 cups of carrot. I recommend for you to add it in little portions so you can mix it each time and then add a little more. So add a little bit, mix, and then add the rest of it. So now the next step is to add a cup of coconut and mix it very, very well. So now that the mixture is completely mixed, you can see that at first it was very sticky, but now it is a much more malleable batter. So it's not completely runny, but it's not completely sticky. So now what we're going to do is to split the batter into the 2 cake pans. You do this carefully.